Yeah, so discover, understand, serve definitely is like a more eloquent way to describe what we were
Yeah, we
doing.
were not
Uh,
calling it that in the beginning.
yeah, when we just kind of stumbled upon this idea.
My name is Steven. I started on Craigslist. I was selling car parts. Then it got cold one winter, and I didn't want to go to junkyards anymore to pull car parts, so I started selling everything in the house on eBay. Then from there, I learned that you could actually go to stores and resell products that were right on the shelf on Amazon. And then from there, we did a whole bunch of different wholesale, private label, different things. I started hiring my family. It was working really well for me because I got to hand off all the jobs that I didn't want to do to the people in my family that I just were around. Nathaniel came to stay with us. My mom was obviously here, and then my wife. I just handed off all the jobs that I hated to them. After a few years of doing that, that kind of started not working so well. Everybody kind of dispersed. Nathaniel was doing this POD thing, and then I said, this might be interesting. This might be a way that we can actually work together instead of working for me and me running the ship. So now we are working together on POD.
I am Nate Hibbert, Steven's little brother. Like Steven said, we always kind of worked together, but it was really him just being in charge and telling me what to do. And I wasn't really using any of the things that I was passionate about or my skills, just like packing boxes and shopping. And like he said, all the stuff that no one really wants to do at the end of the day, but is helpful when you're trying to run an online e-commerce-based business. But on the side of all those years of helping Steven out with that, I was working on graphic design, the thing that I was passionate about. I kind of did the reverse where Steven went from having a 9-to-5 job to working online. I started working online and then went to having a 9-to-5 job. I felt like that legitimized my skills as a graphic designer to get a job inside of a screen printing company. That was kind of like my happiest moment. Be like, okay, this thing that I just kind of taught myself, is working out. But after a year of doing that, I found out about some opportunities to do print on demand through Amazon with their platform Merch by Amazon, and that was just really attractive to me, the idea of using these skills that I've built up in the screen printing business, which was creating t-shirt designs, using that for a world that I kind of know something about, which was selling online and through Amazon, and kind of those two things coming together perfectly. And so I dove into that, and then after some struggles, asked Steven to join me in this adventure.
Yeah, and POD is just print on demand. I know I say shorthands for a lot of things, and I'm trying to get better at actually saying what it is, or at least explaining it so that when I do start throwing it around, people have an awareness of what I'm saying. But POD is print on demand. I think Nathaniel sums this up best.
Yeah, print on demand, the way that we think about it is in terms of private label. But if you don't know private label, it's basically just products that are being held in a warehouse, and they're printed on after the sale is made. That's the huge, that's what the on-demand part of this business is. We don't have to pre-purchase a bunch of product and let it sit in a warehouse, so when it sells, then they package and ship it. It's actually just sitting in the warehouse as a blank, and then they have the printers in the warehouse as well that print on the product. Then it's shipped after the sale is made, and it's shipped directly to the customer. So it doesn't ever have to come to our doorstep. We're not responsible once the sale is made for doing any part of that process, which is such a blessing to be able to do that, and it has opened up a lot of opportunities for us.
Yeah, I think I'll touch on this a little bit, but why we love Merch by Amazon and why we think it's such a great place to start is, one, because it's free. Nathaniel talked about private label a little bit in wholesale. When we were doing that, you have to order all that stuff up front. So you have to invest a lot of money up front and then test and see if you can sell those products. That's why we spent a lot of time researching. With POD, we can speed up that process because it's free to make the listings, at least on Merch by Amazon. You can put up as many listings as you have slots, and it doesn't cost you anything. That's a huge benefit. That's why we always suggest, if people are new to selling online, we always try to push them towards some type of POD, and really Merch by Amazon. It's sometimes a little bit hard to get an account, but there's such huge benefits here. You get to tap into Amazon's traffic. And we touch on this a little bit, but I don't think we should probably promote this a lot more. Amazon is, as far as I know, still the #1 traffic site for purchasing products. The fact that we get to tap into that for free is mind-boggling. The reason why I really joined Nathaniel in this new adventure was he put up a listing and sold it within 24 hours. And I was blown away. At the time, the fastest I ever got something from order to market was 30 days, a little over a month for most months, but it was 30 days was like the quickest. And I was like, wow, I'm really crushing it. If I can do this, then I can test a lot more things and get it to market. And then we can just order batches of things. It's going to be limited by the amount of money that I have, but it's still a quick process. But then when I saw him do it overnight, I was like, okay, we got to figure this thing out. This is amazing. We're able to do this instantly and tap into Amazon and get their customer feedback, and they're paying us for pretty much that information that we're gathering. It was mind-boggling. That's why I really wanted to jump into this. And I think what me and Nathaniel love the most is customer service. We've done a lot of different selling online. eBay, you're constantly interacting with the customers. Doing Craigslist, you're actually going and meeting the customers. Sometimes you got to find where you're going to meet. It's just a lot to that. But with selling on Amazon, you're normally you're part of the cog, which is good. For most of the time, if you want to build a brand, it makes it a little difficult. But with Merch by Amazon, there is no customer service. You don't have to be answering a ton of questions. Amazon's constantly getting asked a million different questions about different things. If you've ever sold on Amazon or eBay, you know this. They'll ask you the size, what true color is this? It's just a lot of different questions. That is a lot of time that you have to put into your business, not making money, answering those questions. It's something that needs to be done, but we can leverage Amazon and have them take care of that side of the business, which is fantastic.
Well, especially like returns as well. That's something that we've had to deal with. Like, just we send in a huge pallet of something, only a portion of it sells, then we got to get back, and we're just sitting on Jenga games for like 5 years later. But I don't have any.
A little too deep in that. We saw a lot of them, but we bought a little too deep.
I don't have any T-shirts just like floating around the house that sold at one point then got returned, or there was some problem with it. Like, none of that. Amazon handles all of that as well, which is a blessing.
So the goals for this presentation tonight, I touched on this a little bit before we actually got started, but I really want to have engagement. I really love answering people's questions. I think we do a good job of teaching, but like I said, there's a lot of gaps in the learning process. Everybody's a little different, but I can almost guarantee you, if you have a question, somebody else has that question, feel free to stop us at any point. We will answer those questions. I know a lot of people, when you do these type of teaching, they say, oh, we'll answer all the questions at the end. I want to kind of address those questions as they come in. Now, if it's a longer question that I might think takes a little time, I'll say, okay, I'll short answer this now, but I'll address it more at the end. But I think as we go through the presentation, hopefully ideas will spark. You'll have a question, ask that question, and then we can address it right on the spot. The second is, I want this to be educational. Anytime we do anything, we're really trying to help people and get you guys to find success faster, save a lot of time. That's really our goal as teachers, is to help you as much as possible. I feel like we've been tested the last 2 years. We got hit with natural disasters, death, sickness, and all kinds of things. This year, I really wanted to do anything that we're doing. I wanted to enjoy and have fun. That's kind of my forefront of everything that we are doing. It's been a wild ride this year. We did a lot of traveling. We did a lot of live presentations. Halfway through the year, I was like, I just want to go home. I took a little rest in May. Now I feel like, okay, let's go back and get back after this thing. That's kind of why we rebranded this whole thing as WingMan University. But we do want this to be enjoyable for everybody, especially us. So if you see us laughing and goofing off a little bit, it's just part of what's going to go on tonight. So tonight's agenda, how we got started. We talked a little bit about kind of our origin stories. What is discovery? That's really what this whole presentation is on tonight. And there's really, to me, 4 main steps of discovery. You get to choose a customer base. You have to find seed keyword. You have to validate the customer base. And then you have to avoid a lot of the competition to start having some success. And then I really want to show you guys how I'm using the WingMan Asset Doc. Even if you don't use it, which I think it's very fleshed out now, and I feel like it's very user-friendly. But even if you don't use it, just the process of gathering the information, putting the information somewhere. There's been a countless amount of times that we have done something's come up. I had to take my wife to the emergency room last week. I've been in the middle of something. Like, putting the information down somewhere so that you can go back to it, I think is invaluable in business, especially as you start growing a business and start working with other people. Having some type of system of actually just putting whatever information that you're learning on some type of document, and then being able to transfer that between, I was going to say team members, but to transfer that to other people that you're working with, I think is just a staple of business. So even if you don't use the WingMan Asset Doc, I strongly suggest getting in some type of habit of collecting that information and putting it somewhere so you can go back to it when something happens, or be able to hand it off to somebody else so that you can consistently work off of something.
Yeah, I want to jump in real quick before Steven gets into this. Even if you've taken one of our asset docs in the past, this is a brand new one that's organized much better and a little bit more user-friendly with like information built right into it. So it's definitely worth, even if you're using one of our old systems, just to check this one out. It might give you a little bit deeper understanding, and we've added some new fields and things to it as well. So definitely worth checking this one out as well.
Yeah, it's a living document. I'll be adding to it as we get more feedback. I'll be adjusting. There are hints and tip tabs on there that we are working on videos for. So when you go there and you go, I'm kind of stuck here, the video will help you get to the next step. How we got started. This is really how we got started on POD. We talked about doing every other platform, wholesale, private label, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage. But this is how we got started in the POD space. I think just sharing the story is beneficial because I think a lot of people start this way. We did the art, and then we just made the listing. It was not that good of a process, but you had to start somewhere. This next part, when we started thinking about keywords, this is kind of where I joined the fray. Nathaniel was asking me. I saw what he was doing. I was like, you need keywords. And then we immediately added that. He would do the art, then I would do the keywords, then we do the listing. What made the system much better is we started with the keywords, then we did the art, then we created the listing. And this is what we found to be the best. We found landing zones, which we'll be explaining a little bit later. And then we pulled keywords, then we created the art, then we did the listing. This was a system that we were able to build, and then we were able to hire out people to do these parts of the business. This took us a long time to do, 8 months, 12-hour days. If you heard the story back to back, it's almost like our going to school in the snow, uphill both ways story. It took us a long time to do this. That's why I think we're so passionate about teaching. Is like, this is a process that I think a lot of people learn, and we just want to speed this process up for you guys. Have a system to follow is the best way to actually grow a business. I believe a system is a business is just a bunch of systems. As soon as you can kind of start putting those systems in place, you can start hiring people to help you to speed this whole thing up and actually grow a business.
Because I'm a creative and I like my colors and knowing where the lines are drawn between what me and Steven are doing, I just wanted to show, the same diagram just shown in this way. To give you guys an idea of how this business kind of formed, but also like you could replace, our names there at the bottom, Nate in red and Steven in blue, with kind of like the art side and like the data side of this business, because, those are the two things we enjoy. But if you're just one person working on this, kind of know that you need to switch on and off different parts of your brain as far as like how you're problem solving and thinking about certain situations. So when we did start, it was just all art. Like that was the only thing I was worried about, getting good artwork done and making a listing, just kind of throwing whatever bare minimum stuff I needed up there. But like Steven said, when I started having some success, he was explaining to me that keywords are like the way that you get found on Amazon. And so I asked him to help me, and that's kind of where he fit in the system. But that wasn't great, because if you see that line that says good, it started with me doing art and then passing it off to Steven to do keywords. And then he would pass it back to me to actually like finish the listing, because I was the one at the time making the listings inside of merch. And this just wasn't very streamlined. This is a really bad system because there was a ton of lag time between when I would like get inspired to do art and Steven would have the time to do keywords for the artwork. And it was hard for him to do keywords that way as well, of like looking at this piece of art and telling, Amazon what he thinks or where he thinks it should fit. It just wasn't a good system at all. So after some discussion and him explaining to me how important keywords were, things got better on that line. And you can see that Steven was just doing keywords up front and then passing it off to me to do the art in the listing. And the keywords first allowed us to target in. We're going to talk about that tonight a little bit, how we were targeting in with those keywords, but that was definitely, we saw a big jump in our productivity as far as being able to list things because we were looking at patterns and where the keywords are coming from and actually like tactically moving through the system, besides me just like, oh, I want to create this today, and so let's throw that up. The best was when Steven was doing this idea of landing zones. That's really what we're going to talk about, our 5-step test of how to find landing zones, how to use keywords from that, and then me doing the art and creating the list on the back end. And now we're happily in an area where we can just manage teams that kind of do this system for us. So Steven's managing the research team and I'm managing the art and the listing team. It's just a really great place to be in where our business can cover, multiple people working for us and multiple teams working for us, all in unison, but only because of those, 8 months that we put in with those 12-hour days where it was just us like slamming our heads into a wall for a while. But once we saw things like clicking and starting to work and us being able to find success consistently, that was the big aha moment where like, okay, now the only problem we have is we need to be able to do more. And the only way we're going to do that is to hire more people, because we're just not physically able to do, more in one day. So that's kind of how the system has been built out, as far as like dividing it from knowing like, okay, this is when I need to think about, the artwork and how people are going to like this design, and like how are they going to wear it around town, what that's going to feel like. And these are the areas where I need to focus on, like, how is this person actually going to find this shirt, and how can I do my the best job possible, so that it is showing up in areas that Amazon's already showing customers products similar to this. So that might be a little fuzzy right now, but as we go through tonight and the more teaching that we do, hopefully we can show you guys the way that we have been able to build these research teams and been able to scale this business on this idea of having a system that helps us find success.
Yeah, I know we probably lingered here. Here was the pain in this business. Like, this took us probably 6 months. And then this was really the end of it, where it was like, okay, now everything is clicking. Building a system, I think, takes the longest, but once you have a system that's working, it's much easier to then hand that off and start scaling an actual business. So this system, or this strategy that we spent that much time to build, is this idea that it's all about the customers. Hopefully you've heard us say this before, but discover, understand, serve is our wingman strategy. It's all about the customer. What we're really trying to do is discover that customer. We want to understand that customer, and then we want to serve that customer. We really love POD because it allows us to do this very rapidly. But then the next steps from that is just being able to better serve your customer with more products. Maybe higher profit margins, maybe sells quicker, but it's the process of finding them and serving them is really what this discover, understand, serve is all about. What we were doing in the beginning was kind of shotgunning a lot of different ideas. And I think that was when you were just creating art and then making listing. And then when you asked me to do keywords, somewhere in that, like, something clicked as you were writing to work.
Yeah, so discover, understand, serve definitely is like a more elegant way to describe what we were doing.
Yeah, we were not calling it that in the beginning.
Yeah, when we just kind of stumbled upon this idea. But like Steven said, I was shotgunning a bunch of ideas at the very beginning of, trying to understand how I can make money online through print on demand. But it wasn't until, I didn't see some system or some like rhyme or reason to why people were buying products until I started thinking about the people actually buying these products. I was just like, okay, I need to make Amazon happy. I need to put shirts in places that Amazon is driving traffic or whatever. But once I stopped and thought about like, okay, these are actual people who are buying these shirts. They're going to wear them. How can I reach out to them? That's when, while riding my bike to work, I was like, okay, I need to be making shirts for, something that I would enjoy wearing. That was something that like I could process in my head. Selling online can almost feel like overwhelming because you're like, oh, there's so many places to put shirts, but it's hard for you to like narrow one of those down and really think about this person. So I was like, let me sell a shirt that I personally would wear. And as someone who was riding my bike to work every day because it was beautiful, sunny Florida, I made a shirt for the specific trail that I was riding in Florida, whatever, like 2 miles back and forth from work. And we had sales on it, and that was like the biggest aha moment where it was like, oh, like I didn't expect this really to work in that way. Like my idea was to make shirts for local people and then go out to like local events and stuff and tell them like, hey, I have shirts on Amazon that you can buy. But before I got to going to events and that whole thing, we actually had sales on it. And I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like if I think about those customers before I'm making the product, maybe they will search on Amazon. And so now we've kind of taken out that maybe, or just, again, throwing out things with actually doing research, again, with our 5-step test of how do I target these customers? How do I know what they're going to want to wear? And just that thought process has taken us a lot farther than just randomly throwing things up. And we've been able to apply it to other things. I know we're just talking about print on demand here, but we can actually apply even just this thought process to PL or whatever things that you want to do online. Thinking about the customer first and understanding like what that means and how to systemize that is extremely powerful.
So this idea of, I'm going to turn this off, sorry. I was trying to do it as you were talking, but I was like, this is getting more distracted to me. This idea of discover. we really want to help you find your customer base. Nathaniel had this idea of riding to work, of just picking a customer base out of thin air. The more we teach and the more customer bases we go after, we are fully understanding that we sometimes can zone or hone in on a customer base and really nail it out the park in the beginning. Sometimes it takes us a long time to find success, and sometimes we just cannot crack the code. But if we teach somebody else and then they go after that one that it was like impossible for us, we weren't getting any sales, they somehow knock it right out the park in the beginning. So it's finding your customer base is really what I think I'm trying to help you guys with. I guess I'll define it first. Customer base really is just a group of people that like the same thing. When you're starting, I think everybody goes to a few different big ones, but then once you start thinking about it a little bit more, you go, oh, I don't want to sell against all these other people. What are some things that I have a little bit more knowledge about that I might be able to increase my success or my speed to success by thinking a little bit differently about this? So there's 4 steps of discovery. This first one is choosing a customer base. There's no like right or wrong way to do this. You are just choosing something. It's a place for you to start to just gather information to start testing listings against. But this picture, I think, wraps it up where there's a lot of different choices that you can make. Just picking one is the first step. So tips of how we do this or how we suggest people do this is get your hobbies, your passions, your likes, your interest. These are great places to start. Why I was bringing up us having success right away and struggling and having success and then not having any success is I think this concept. If you're picking something that is a hobby of yours or a like or a passion, you're going to know more than us. You're going to be able to go, oh, these customers think about it this way, and then immediately be able to serve those customers. But if you're like me, you're very analytical, it's almost impossible to disconnect your likes from like systematically building a process to do this. You almost have too much, what's the word I'm looking for?
Too many options.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming. So for me, this is a good thing that I tell people. It's not something that I'm normally capable of doing. I think now that I've gotten a lot better at it, I can do this. But in the beginning, I really want to just help people start this process. So picking something that you have knowledge of is definitely one way of doing this. It's a very powerful way because I think you'll have success sooner. But if you're like me and you're very analytical, it's very hard to do this. And I really don't want you to get stuck here. It's just really a place to get started, just like that picture was shown with just pulling somewhere. If you grew up in the 80s like me and played some video games, there was always cheat codes in those video games. And that's where this idea came from. I always try to make things as simple as possible for people. And I know this coming out the gate, I don't want anybody to stumble right out the gate. So I've put some cheat codes here to help you guys. So if you go to Google, if you're like me and you're analytical and thinking about hobbies and likes, like there's no way to connect that to actually moving forward, this is a way to help you. If you go to Google and you search hobbies that start with, and then you're able to pick a letter, that immediately kind of helps guide you through this process of picking a customer base. Another one is occupations that start with. Another one is going to Amazon and searching just funny shirts, seeing what other customer bases are being targeted and what Amazon is suggesting. And when we go over the shoulder, I'll show this process off. That way it's not too abstract. I know sometimes when you go to Amazon and type in funny shirt, like, what do you mean by that? I'll show it when we do the over the shoulder and hopefully explain that a little bit better. But I really just don't want anybody to get stuck here. Just start somewhere. If you're like me and you're analytical, it might be hard to abstractly think about my likes and dislikes. This gives you a starting place so you can start doing this process.
Well, just a reminder, like that is just the first step. So don't feel like, oh, I'm just going to Amazon, I'm typing in funny shirt, I'm going to find a shirt there, and I'm going to try to compete on that funny shirt niche. Like that's just step one. The rest of these steps are going to help you kind of narrow in the exact target and the exact place that you want to be putting in that shirt or whatever product you're selling.
Yeah, so step 2 is finding a seed keyword. What word represents your customer base? If you're taking that hobby, that like, that passion that you have, connecting that with a keyword is key. You really need to be able to start somewhere to start doing the rest of the steps and start doing some research. So just picking a seed keyword is step 2. Here are some tips to do this. If you go to Google and you have an idea for a customer base, or if you have hobbies and stuff like that, doing research on Google is great to just start pulling in some keywords to start saying, okay, which one of these best helps me identify my customer base. Google's a great place to do this. Pinterest is another place that's just a great place to just go and look around and try to just gather some information to see what keywords most of your people in your hobby or your like or your passion or anything that you're going after use. There's also Etsy and, of course, Amazon. If you're like me and you are very versed in Amazon, you can kind of manipulate Amazon to get this information. But I almost believe it's easiest on Google, then Pinterest, then Etsy, and then Amazon is kind of last. I just want to point out this. Also, the seed keyword can be more than one word. The more I teach on this, I see people getting a little bit overwhelmed by this. It's just like picking a customer base. It's a place to start, and it doesn't have to be a single keyword. You don't have to file it down to just one thing. I know we talk about cats a lot as our example. Cats might be the best identifying seed keyword for people that like cats. We talk about the bees, people that like bees. Maybe bees is the best seed keyword. Maybe if you go to Google and type in, what do people that like bees, what are they called? You pull up beekeeper, honey farmer. Maybe those are better identifier words or seed keywords. But if you're going after people that like to fly, fly is not a good seed keyword, because if you type in fly shirts, it's going to be all kinds of things. It's not necessarily going to be people that like to fly. So you might have to do a little bit of research on Google to find, oh, people that like to fly are called pilots. Maybe pilot is the best seed keyword. Again, please do not get stuck here. The more you do this, the more it becomes second nature to you. I talk about in the beginning, Nathaniel was riding his bike to work. He immediately was able to pull out keywords and start doing research that way. It took me probably all the way up a year and a half, I would say, of doing this to then finally make that connection where it's like, oh, now I can think about customers and pull out customer keywords. And it might seem funny to you now, but as I was driving last week to South Carolina, I was reading those billboards, and then I would see a McDonald's sign, a Wendy's sign, all these different fast food places. And then I was just thinking, I wonder what kind of customer base are they going after? I know there's people driving on this road. They're hungry. That's kind of their target, people that they're targeting. But really, what is McDonald's as a company going after? And then I was just thinking, oh, maybe the people that like burgers. It's really a burger joint. So burgers might be the seed keyword, but then I was like, oh, hamburgers, or people that like hamburgers might be a better seed keyword. I was able to like think through that process without doing research to start and just pulling out a seed keyword. So if you're capable of doing that, do that. If not, like I said, there's some cheat codes for you. Just start the process, find the customer base, find the seed keyword. Next, we want to be able to validate that customer base. This is step 3. This is just quickly checking to gauge interest. When we got started, we spent a lot of time with this idea of customer bases and just testing a lot of different customer bases. We'd spend a lot of time gathering keywords. We spent a lot of time doing the art. We spent a lot of time making the listings just to, at the end of it, go back and search for all of our shirts and find out, oh, we're the only people here, and it doesn't even look like the customers are here. We should have probably checked to see if customers are actually coming here and actually buying these shirts. This step is really just to save you guys a lot of time. You want to first check if there are customers and make sure that they are buying. The way that we suggest doing this, there's a lot of different tools that people use. There's a lot of different ways that you yourself can build in this process, but we always like to keep it simple. Just going to Amazon, searching for your seed keyword, whatever identifies your customer base the best, and the products that you're going after. Because we're teaching merch that is normally shirts. So in this example, we have cat shirt. You would search that, and you just want to see how many products are there, how many products are selling. If there's 0 products, it might be an indication that is worth putting some time into, because maybe there's customers coming there, but there's no competition. So you might want to put a product there, but more than likely what's happening is no customers are coming there and they're not buying anything. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but what's something that somebody would definitely not be? Underwater electrician. I'm sure there's very few people that are doing underwater electrician anything. So if you type in underwater electrician shirt, there should be we'll go to Amazon, check this out. There should be no customers and there should be no products, but maybe that's a customer base that's very popular. I don't know. But just the concept of cat shirts, there's going to be a lot of shirts. There's going to be a lot of customers going there. There's going to be a lot of products being sold. That's what you're looking for. You don't want to go so far down that there's nobody there. That's what we were kind of doing in the beginning, because we had success with this small riding trail in Florida. We were looking for very small places to start in the beginning. We just had a lot of ideas, but we could have saved ourselves a lot of time by just going to Amazon to start and seeing, is this a valid thing that we should spend any more time on? Let's validate this customer base to start.
Yeah. And before you get to that last point, I just want to say, like, this might seem overly simple. Even like these first 3 steps might seem like pretty obvious. Like, yeah, you need a word to identify them. Yes, you need to do some like simple research to see if they're there. But this is all just through like years of doing this stuff, and just our failures of just like still continuing to do.
Say that again.
Yeah. Things that don't make any sense, when you're able to take a step back. But when you first start off, like, you're just scrambling for ideas, you're just trying to like figure out how to get the listings up. Like, there's a lot that goes into, actually learning the skills to get one of these listings up. So you don't necessarily have like the mental power to like step back and look at the system. And so I think that like, visual aid that we had at the beginning, showing like, these are the steps that we went through and this is how long it took us. This is like the lessons that we learned from all of that. That we're following, and we've learned a lot of lessons from that, so we'll talk about that time probably quite a bit over the teaching that we do. But this is the first way that you want to start validating some of your ideas, because we get a lot of people saying like, oh, wouldn't this be a great thing to put on a shirt? And it's like, I can't tell you yes or no, but we can go do research fairly quickly to figure that out and tell you like, okay, this is exactly where you should be putting your shirt. So again, we're getting there to a little bit more of like the meat of like, this is the system that you're going to follow, but knowing these steps even when you begin to give yourself some validation if the ideas that you're having are good or not definitely helps. So just a reminder, that's kind of where we're at in the process.
Yeah, we probably will say the amount of time that it took us, but it was years to be able to like process all of this information. That's why I really want to drive this point home. Start somewhere, focus your efforts, because there's going to be a lot of time spent doing the other parts of the business. You don't want to put all that time in without seeing if there's actual customers there. So like this last point popped up, are customers using that C keyword, and are they buying? That should have been the very first thing we were looking at in the beginning, but it was just so, like Nathaniel said, we were so in the business that we didn't actually take a step back and look at the obvious. That's why I think these points are really to save you a ton of time, headache, and frustration. It was just by spending all the time building up our system to be able to look at patterns to see what's working. That's where this whole thing came from. And now teaching people and having other people have success, and even being able to tell somebody that, hey, here's a trend coming up, you should kind of look at this, or maybe even test this out. And then they do it and have success overnight. And you go, it didn't happen like that for us. It took us a long time to start finding success. But that's why I just really want to drive these points home. Step 4 is avoiding the competition. You want to be able to find good landing zones. The example that we're constantly using is cat. Because cat is such a huge niche, it's not necessarily where you want to be spending your time. So now you've taken the time to pick a customer base, you identify the C keyword, you see that there's stuff actually selling. Cat shirt seems like the best place to start selling shirts. You're just going against way too much competition. So like how Nathaniel found success very rapidly and was able to kind of flush out that idea of Florida riding shirts and have a lot of sales, was this idea of avoiding competition. Why he found so much success in the beginning. And this is a guess. I don't know truly what was the magic sauce that happened, but what I could see from tracking hundreds of listings was Nathaniel put shirts up where there was no competition. And because his shirts designs were high quality, he was starting to get a whole bunch of traction, and that's why those were starting to really take off. So avoiding competition is almost, I believe, the most important part of your POD business, because it's so easy. Why we love Amazon, it's free. You can get listings up almost overnight. There's no customer service. All those benefits, you get to tap into their organic searches. Everybody else has the same level. So you want to not compete heavily where a lot of people are competing, like cat shirt. You want to avoid a lot of that competition. Cat shirt customers might be your customer base that you start with, but you need to kind of get away from a lot of that competition. And we talk about good landing zones, but this example is really, I hope, showing this idea of starting with way too much and then just trying to break it down to get away from the competition. So t-shirt markets, yes, we want to sell t-shirts, but we don't want to compete with the level of people that are in the t-shirt market. So hopefully what this example is showing you is there's two different sides to the coin. There's the competition side and there's the customer or the traffic side. Now, Amazon will never tell us the traffic. There are some tools that tell you gauges of traffic. I don't trust any of those because Amazon's not giving out that information. So that's not a data point that we can trust or look at. But the other side of that coin is the competition. That is something that we can look at. And that Amazon might hide that information a little bit, but it's something a lot more reliable that I can look and say, hey, how much competition is here? If we look at cat shirts, there's a ton of competition. So how do I break that down and start getting away from a lot of that competition? Funny cat shirts is now a smaller portion of all the cat shirts. Taco cat shirts, mom cat shirts. You're really just trying to get away from a ton of that competition. So now that we've talked about landing zones for the last 20 minutes, what is a landing zone? And a landing zone is just the Amazon's results page that passes the 5-step test. So now your next question should be, what is the 5-step test? The 5-step test is just, again, from us doing all this research, checking all these data points. I was tracking shirts as we made them, as they went live, after a week, after 2 weeks, after the 90 days, what worked, what didn't work. I was just seeing a lot of patterns. It was a team of VAs that were poring over this data to find out what was the most consistent thing that we were doing to find success. And that's where this 5-step test was birthed. We found out that autofilling was a huge gauge for success. If it autofilled, that was a good indicator to us that customers are actually going there. We should spend more time with that because in all the shirts that we were selling, we were having the most success with things that autofilled. We want to see top 10, whatever we were going after were mostly the same products. In this case, because we're doing merch, we want to see t-shirts, 1,000 results. We want to see less competition. So that was the gauge where it was like, okay, 1,000 is the number that we can go after. We want to see 8 out of the top 10 have BSR. BSR is best seller rank. And then 2 out of those 10 have less than 1 million. And then that just indicated to us that there were sales consistently. So that was worth us going after.
And this is why I always speak after Stephen, because he's always going so quickly through things. But to slow that down a little bit and just talk about this 5-step test, because this is really the backbone of our print-on-demand business, is understanding this concept of this is that system I was talking about, the systematic way to find if the area you're looking at is somewhere that we would suggest you put a shirt. And that's the really way to do this, to save yourself time from just randomly throwing stuff up. It's great to randomly throw stuff up and randomly have success, but what's even better than that is to have a systemized way to figure out okay, what are the things that are happening when I'm having success? And like Stephen said, narrowing all that down with his team, just figuring out this is what we want to see when we want to put a shirt somewhere not to guarantee, but to increase our chances of having success. So this first one, autofill, what that means is when you go to Amazon, you're actually in the search bar. We want to see that Amazon is completing whatever we're typing in with their little drop downs. And that means that other customers are also going to Amazon and typing that in. They don't just have random phrases and things coming up in that autofill section. That is them understanding the customers and what they're typing in and showing us this is what customers are coming to Amazon currently and typing in. It changes quite a bit, so staying on top of that is always good. But if we see the phrase that we want to go after autofill, that's a huge indication that that's a good place to go because traffic is actually going there. So
yeah, it's almost, sorry, I don't want to cut you off. It's almost like customers are cutting the path. So the more times a customer is typing in that longer phrase, the Amazon's seeing that, and then they're saying, hey, customer, since you're typing in some of these words, is this what you're looking for? It's almost like they're guessing at it because they see all these customers that are coming there. They're trying to make it easier for the customer because the customer might go, okay, I'm looking for a cat mom, and then it'd say, oh, cat mom shirts, that people that like felines or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for, and then they can go there.
Yeah, so that's a huge indicator for us, and it used to be the place that we just stopped. When we figured that out, we were like, oh, it's just anything that auto-completes, let's throw stuff there. But we have 4 other steps to, again, just to help increase our chances of having success. And so the second rule that we follow is that the top 10 listings all match. So if you're selling a t-shirt, you want to see that the place that you want to put your shirt is in an area where shorts are showing up. That means that the customers are, typing that thing in, they're auto-completing the sentence, and they're being able to purchase the product that we're able to sell. So we don't want to put a shirt somewhere where, like dog toys are super popular, because if someone's typing that keyword in, they're probably looking for those dog toys and not necessarily shirts. Or they're like, if it's too sporadic, if there's too many different types of items there, then that customer isn't zoned in on just buying, whatever product we're able to sell. So we want to kind of get away from those areas and get to places where customers are typing in this thing and they're looking for this type of product. So the third step is that there are less than 1,000 results, and that just means that there's less competition there. So at the top left of your screen, when you go to Amazon, it will show the results. And we have found, again, just from looking at data of where our shirts have been selling, that under 1,000 results is a much easier place for us to compete, because there's less competition there. Again, not guaranteeing that you're going to be on the first page, but much higher chances than if you're to go somewhere where there's like 200,000 people all competing for that first page. It's just a nightmare. The fourth step that we like to follow is that 8 out of the top 10 have a BSR, and like Steven said, BSR is that bestsellers rank, and that represents to us that there are sales happening there. That's extremely important. We want to know that we're putting our shirt somewhere where customers are going and also purchasing products, because that's our whole goal here. And the fifth step kind of goes along with that, and that is that 2 out of the top 10 have less than 1 million BSR, again, that bestsellers rank, and that means that there are sales happening monthly. So that's really, at the end of the day, what we're focused on doing. We want to put a shirt somewhere where customers are going, where there are sales happening, and where sales are happening within a month. That's a good target for us. If we can get a shirt to sell once a month, and we can scale that up and do that a bunch, which we've been able to do with this system, that makes us very happy, because that means we're successfully being able to sell print-on-demand products. So that's our 5-step test. This is the system that I've been kind of hinting at since the beginning.
Yeah, this is something that we are definitely still using daily in our business, but I just want to let people know these are not laws. They're just rules to follow. You can find things that are out of the box that don't really fit into this. Maybe there's only 6 out of the top 10 that are selling. Maybe it's a trend that's just happening. So be aware of that. Don't feel like, oh, it didn't fit, I'm definitely not going to test it. Use your common sense. I just want to drive home the point again. Many hours have gone into this. A lot of experience has gone into this. It's not something that we just cobbled together. I think we say that now a little bit more because people were asking us, like, how did this come about? Didn't you just throw this together to give people something to look at or a guideline to follow? But it's not. It's something that we are still using in our business daily, and it's still working for us. Some of these rules have adjusted a little bit. We used to say 10 or less than 5,000 results because Amazon was actually showing us the real results. Now they don't, and I'll point that out when we do over the shoulder. But as long as on the first page it says less than 1,000, then we feel like that is worth going after. So to recap this whole, what is this discovery all about, and the steps to discovery, there's 4 steps. You want to choose a customer base. You want to find a seed keyword, a word that identifies your customer base the best, or that they identify with. You want to validate the customer base. You just want to quickly go to Amazon. Are people actually using this word? Are they actually purchasing products here? That, I think, was a huge mistake that we made in the beginning. When we had this idea of a customer base, we were spending a lot of time just testing a lot of things, and we would have saved ourselves a ton of time if we would have just went to Amazon in the beginning and saw, are there customers here, and are they actually buying? Like, that was a huge mistake on our point that we want to help save you guys that time and that headache. And then avoiding competition. This is what I think we've found the most success with, is just avoiding a lot of that competition. I think a lot of people that get into this POD space come here because it is free to make the listings. There's a lot of benefits to it, but then they just kind of jump in with the rest of the crowd, and then it's hard for them. They don't really have success. They get frustrated, then they drop it. If you're avoiding competition as your main pursuit, I think that will help you find success. I think it's very addictive when you start getting sales. You want to get more sales. I think especially when Nathaniel had that sale overnight, I was like, wow, we've really got to figure this out. And then when we started helping other people and getting more success very rapidly, I was like, oh, this is very exciting. How do we do this more? And it was just avoiding competition, I think, is really what sparked that whole thing. Avoiding competition is just, we have AKA finding landing zones. And landing zones, again, are just Amazon's results pages that pass the WingMan 5-step test. This is our asset doc. As I go through the process of this Discover 4 steps test, I'm going to be going back to this document and just filling it out as we find landing zones, as we find customer bases, just so you guys can kind of see and get used to this asset doc. And as you can see, I have tips and tricks in here. I'll put those cheat codes in here so that people that are like me, very analytical, it's hard to just conceptually pick something out of thin air, you can at least have somewhere to start. But I guess I'll start with those cheat codes. So we'll go to Google.
Twinkle's got an interesting question that I don't know if it will derail you too much, but she's asking, can these same techniques be used for KDP as well?
Yes. So hobbies that start with, you can put in anything and it'll come up with different suggestions. But I really like using Google because there's always things that I would never think of. And just like this, outdoor hobbies might be another thing that as a analytical person, I would look more into. I don't know if I'd ever consider outdoor hobbies as a way to search, but just because now typing in this hobbies that start with A, I have a new way of looking or thinking about a customer base. And then you can see, I don't know anything about this either, air sports. We could actually copy this and go to Amazon and just see and validate air sports. And when you're validating the niche, it's not so important that it autofills. You just want to be able to see our customers actually coming here and buying this stuff. This is a good example of we're really trying to sell t-shirts with sayings or designs on the front. This immediately tells me that this is probably not worth going after. Even though there's 10,000 results, there's a good amount of competition here, which is not a problem. We can always kind of niche down. But air sports, I don't know what, do you know what air sports are, brother? I don't know.
There's a picture there like paragliding and stuff like that, I'm assuming. But yeah, people like that are probably not looking for like something that represents them as far as design on the shirt. They're probably looking for like a certain material or more of like the type of shirt rather than like a design on shirt.
And this is just another perfect example of going, somebody that's in this space and this is their customer base, these are their people, they all call it air sports. But when they're searching online, they might have to go, okay, it's not really air sports. We have like inside terminology of air sports, but really we call it skydiving or paragliding or something else. Then you take that keyword and go to Amazon. So if you are in this customer base or understand this and that's your terminology, this is a good idea, just a good way to go. Is this a good seed keyword? Air sports. That's my seed keyword. I go to Amazon. It looks like there's a lot of competition, so a lot of products are here. But as soon as I look, I go, oh, this is not really what I'm looking for. This are, well, I guess this kind of, but this has a high rank. But hang glider or skydiver, those are better seed keywords that will identify your customer base. I hope we didn't go too far off base with that, because
no, I think there's a lot of things that, you know, you're just kind of absorbing, and that's why we do these over the shoulder. We want to show you guys exactly like how we think through this process and what we're seeing as we're going through this, because we can tell you like this is, you know, the 4 steps that you follow, but until you actually go do it, you're going to see that there's a lot of, you know, variable.
The road, it gets a little
get thrown at you.
Early. Mike Tyson said everybody got to play until they get punched in the face. So that's why I said, like, if you have a hobby or understanding, if you're like Nathaniel, it's easy for you to go, oh, I can creatively think it's all of these different words. I can kind of pull them. But for me, it was, especially in the beginning, was almost impossible. Like if someone was like, I'm into air sports, like I could go completely blank. I don't even know what that means. Like, what did you even just say? I have nothing for you. But that's why I love using Google. Type in air sports. You can kind of get a better feel for this customer base and then go, okay, what keyword best identifies this customer base? And then I can find my seed keyword. So we're just moving on from air sports. We can go down that road with picking parasailing, or what was this one? Parasailing, right?
Hang gliding.
Hang gliding. Those are other ways that you can go. And this is my customer base. This is what I'm going after. I just went back to the hobbies. I picked a different one, archery. We're going archery shirts. Can you hear the thunder and lightning?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Just shaking the house. So archery shirts. Archery is the customer base. Shirts is obviously the product that we're going after. This is more what I'm looking for. I want to see archery type designs. I want to see that they're on shirts. This is really what I'm looking for to just validate this customer base. There are theoretically 1,000 products here. We have DS Quick View on. You can actually click in to each one of these. This is just the bestseller rank. As we scroll down, we could say, hey, most of these products are selling. This now is a good customer base and at least a good seed keyword to start with, because as we're looking at these, most of these products on this page are selling. This is something that I want to go deeper in. Now I want to start looking for landing zones. I want to start avoiding the competition and seeing if I can get my products to show up in front of these customers and if they're starting to get purchased. So that was the cheat code way of doing it. You can do occupations. There's a lot of different things that you can type in here, but just knowing that you can go to Google or Pinterest or any of these places to leverage Google, Pinterest, anywhere else that you're going, to have them help you pick a customer base. So we just started with hobbies that start with, and as you can see, there's all kinds of hobbies. There's outdoor hobbies, there's list of hobbies. You can go to Wikipedia, I'm sure, there's hundreds of places to start. So if picking a customer base, if you're really getting stuck there, that's why I said, just please don't get stuck there. There's a million of these places to start. Start somewhere. That's really what you're trying to find out is, can I really sell to archery customers? There are people selling to archery customers. Can I get in front of them? Do I know enough about them? Can I make the designs that will actually start selling? It's just a place to get started. Oh, and then I'll show my next cheat code on actual Amazon. So if you type in funny shirt, and why this works is, I guess, a good and a bad. I would say most people making listings don't fully understand how to utilize keywords. So they're overusing a lot of keywords that are throwing them in with a ton of competition unwittingly. So funny, I believe, the most overused word in merch. So if you type in funny shirts, you will see a bunch of merch shirts. And because we're able to leverage Amazon and see what's actually going on, we're able to see, okay, what are the customer bases that these merch customers or anybody that's selling shirts are going after. So we typed in funny shirt, and now what I'm doing is just looking at this page, just like I used Google, and I'm just having Google tell me kind of what customers might be typing in or what occupations start with a certain letter, what hobbies start with a certain letter. I'm going to Amazon and going, hey, Amazon, what are shirts that are selling and what are selling well and what are those customer bases? So if we type in funny shirt and just kind of look, you can see, this is a Vietnamese cuisine. How do you say this, Nathaniel?
Pho.
Pho. Yeah, we went to these places a few times and I always ask. So this Vietnamese word might be the best seed keyword, or it might be Vietnamese or cuisine. But as you're looking down this page, you can start gathering a ton of customer bases along with a lot of seed keywords to start testing out. So that's why I said this is kind of like a cheat code. You're leveraging Amazon to have them tell you all this information. What are good customer bases? What are some of the good keywords that people are using? Sloth is one that's becoming super popular now. I don't know why, but for some reason there's a lot more sloth stuff selling in books and in shirts and in just a lot of different products. Sloths are getting very popular. But if I knew nothing about this customer base, this is now something, okay, they like animals. Sloth is the animal that they're going after. Sloth is now my seed keyword. Animal might be my customer base, or sloth customers might be my customer base, but at least I've identified a seed keyword. Using Google, using Pinterest, using other places to help you identify your customer base with a seed keyword is a way to do it. So if you're like me and you just need a place to start and you need those cheat codes, we showed you how to do that. But if you're like Nathaniel, but you're just having a little bit of difficulty identifying a seed keyword, like people that like bees might be the seed keyword. People that like flying, those are all places that customer bases are, but just being able to pull out a seed keyword is difficult sometimes. So if you go to Google and have Google help you, so as you can see, people that like bees are called honey farmers, beekeepers. These are also great ways to pull out those seed keywords and be able to go to Amazon, beekeeper shirt, and then just see how many other competitors are there. Are these products actually selling? We just want to see, are there products like this that are catering to bee customers, which there are, and are these products actually selling? And as we scroll down this page, I'm not going too fast, right? This is the internet.
No, you're good. I'm still following. I guess you guys can let us know.
I know sometimes going over Zoom, it clips it, but a lot of these products are selling. So now I would say it's worth my time to gather keywords, create the art, make the listings, because I've validated this customer base. I found the customer base. I picked a seed keyword. I validated it. Now I can start getting away from a lot of the competition. And I pulled this up because I can show you here. It says 812, but if you go deeper into the pages, Amazon will start pulling all kinds of results. Now, I know when we were first teaching this, people were getting very concerned and going, oh, you said only go after 1,000 competitors, but now if I look, there's actually 10,000 competitors. It doesn't truly matter the amount of competitors that are there. What we are very concerned with is what we have found in our business. If we go to that first page and we see that Amazon tells us on the first page it's less than 1,000, we are able to have consistent success by putting shirts up in those areas, what we call landing zones that have less than 1,000. It's not a guarantee.
Yeah, so it's not so much that we're worried about, how that changes as you go past those pages. It's like we've gone back, we've done research of where our shirts are showing up, and this is something that we've seen. So whether that, 1,000, under 1,000 results actually means there's 1,000 people selling there or not, it's just using the information that Amazon's giving us and factoring that in with how can we make sure that we're continuously having success and increasing our chances to have success.
I'm trying to remember that customer base. Underwater
electrician.
I'll search it until someone.
ELECTRI.
Hold on 1 second. Sorry.
There you go. Oh, you got caught.
ELECTRICIAN. Oh, nailed it. That might not be exciting for you, but I'm impressed with myself. Underwater electrician. I'm surprised anything showed up. It says 17 results. I am blown away. But as you look at these results, they're not really, they're not shirts. So you can see that there's, I guess if I was an underwater electrician, I would need a writing pad that's waterproof. That is hilarious. Flashlight, I guess. But this you can see warning. Sorry, let me turn off DS Quick View so I can actually point out this stuff without all this stuff popping up. I think that's also why it's giving me that robot check, is because of DS Quick View. But this is not a underwater electrician shirt. This is actually just a regular electrician shirt. So because there's not anything here, Amazon's starting to put up something. I'm curious to see if you go past page 1, though, if it'll pull up more results. Yeah, so 75 is the actual number that's here. But if we go back to page 1, just by looking at this page, we say, okay, these are not really underwater electrician shirts. There's not really anything that represents underwater and electrician. These are electrician shirts. So if my idea, like Nathaniel is riding to work to have bike riding Florida shirts, if I just come out the top of my head and go underwater electrician and I go to Amazon and search this, there are some results, but they're not really what identifies my customers. And they are some that are selling, but it's really electrician. You can kind of see that where it says warning, electrician will shock you. It's the same funny electrician shirt. So maybe underwater electrician is not the right customer base, but with that idea, if we just take out underwater and type in electrician shirt, here's something where we go, okay, now this might be worth going after. Let me turn back on DS Quick View. I apologize. So electrician shirt, now I see, okay, these are customers that want these type of shirts, and they're actually buying a lot of these shirts. A lot of these shirts are selling very well. And if you're doing KDP, here's a perfect example. You can take a lot of this information and use it on KDP. But like I said, you just have to be just understand the BSRs in the different categories.
Yeah. Karen's got a good question and kind of segues into what we'll be teaching and talking more about next month is once you've found that location, how do you decide on your idea? If beekeeper passed the 5-step test, would you just create a beekeeper shirt or have some like specific saying or something that you would add? And so that is exactly what we'll be talking about next month. Now that you've found an area that you want to put a shirt, that next step of, discover, understand, serve is understanding those customers. So I'll be talking about how can you look at this landing zone and pull that information so that we can then serve that customer with a product that's going to match what they're looking for, their likes, their interest, without, going too crazy with looking all over the internet. Like, we can just use that landing zone. And Amazon has put, millions and millions of dollars into understanding their customers and what they're going to purchase when they type in these keywords. And so we just get to tap into that and be able to pull inspiration from that page and then create something that will sell there. So I was gonna say you're a little ahead of us, but you're actually like right on time for what we're talking about. So the next 4 weeks, that's the idea that we're going to be talking about is, understanding those customers. How do we pull information from this landing page and use it for our own designs, and just taking inspiration from those type of things.
So I actually pre-filled this sheet because we talked about it a little bit on a Monday call, but people that like bees, beekeepers shirts, beekeeper shirts, this actually passed the 5-step test. But if bees is the word that you're identifying and you go, okay, bees is the shirt that, or bees is the seed keyword that I want to use, we'll actually add that into the customer base seed keyword, bee shirt, or sorry, bee. I said I was going to show this off and I didn't. I apologize. And then shirt, and then we're putting those together. And then we want to see numbers of results under 1,000. And this had 10,000 results, so it did not pass. So what you're going to want to do now is find potential landing zones. You're going to want to find results pages that autofill, that have less than 1,000 results. I just want to really, this is just our 5-step test broken down with this added in so you can track the information, because it's always good to go back to it. Autofills, less than 1,000, top 10 similar products, 8 out of 10 have BSR, and 2 out of the top 10 are less than 1 million. And it'll actually turn green after we do that. Hopefully this helps you. This shows you how we're using the asset doc. This really drives home the point of finding a customer base, gathering a seed keyword, finding places to start testing shirts, validating that customer base to start, and then finding landing zones. That has been, I think, the staple to our scalability. It's something that we are constantly going back to whenever we're trying a new niche. This is the the process that we're using, these 5-step tests, and really finding where are low competitor spots inside these customer bases that we can start testing, and then find what's working for us, and then really start to what we call double down. But just like we showed, it's discover. That was tonight's section. Next month, August, which is tomorrow, we're going to start about the understand. That's really where I rely heavily on Nathaniel, because I can pull the keywords out of it, but his eye for looking at the landing zone and seeing, okay, bee whisperer, what should I be pulling out of this? I mean, I'll go ahead and cheat a little bit. I pulled out black, the color yellow. There are certain identifiers like the actual bee graphic. Those are things that I would be looking for when I'm looking at that landing page. It's only, I think, again, it's becoming second nature to me now, especially in the beginning when I was looking, I was like, I don't know what these customers want. I have no idea. I'm immediately giving that to Nathaniel. But now I'm starting to, from him explaining it all the time, it's like a drill, stuff that I didn't really necessarily want to learn. I'm starting to really pick up on and have a much better understanding of it.
Yes, we are definitely going to jump into that, like I said, next month. But before we wrap this up, Twinkle has a good question just asking about the ads, or why do we skip over those sponsored ads. So if you touch on that real quick, and then we can wrap this up.
Yes. Sponsored ads change very rapidly. Sometimes when you check, there will be no sponsored ads. Sometimes you'll check there'll be 1 sponsored ad. There's 2 sponsored ads. It throws off the metrics when we're checking. So that's why we just say, okay, as we're doing this counting of the top 10, we discard the sponsored ads for right now, because sometimes those 2 sponsored ads, like in the B example, are selling, but sometimes they're just new listings that have not sold, and they can skew the results one way or the other just from something that might show up this minute, and then we do a search in 10 minutes and it's different. So it changes the variables too much. So we just discount them when we're actually adding up the top 10, or counting the top 10, I should say.